What are you doing down there?
I'm just looking for my
copy of The Mask on DVD. Chris is doing a Big Damn Love episode all about it this week, and I thought I'd lend him my copy because I'm a swell stand-up guy. Oh, by the way, do you happen to have a change of pants up there? I've been wading through fish piss and shit, and I stink pretty bad. Hello? Hello? Oh, I get it. The clip's looped. You're not doing anything because this clip is in a loop. Let's just start the episode, huh? Unscripted! Welcome to Big Damn Love, where this week I thought it'd be a bit unpredictable because the film I'm talking about was born out of unpredictability. New Line Cinema were looking for a franchise to replace the Nightmare on Elm Street series, which was wrapping up with Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. And one of them stumbled upon a Dark Horse Comics series of mini-series and one-shots called Mask, and then The Mask, which was about this ancient artifact that when placed on the wearer's face would turn them into the green-headed creature known as Big Head, who would exact revenge and personal lust fantasies and everything upon those who'd wronged him and ditched them and stuff, through the means of supernatural abilities that seemingly warped reality to a cartoonish level. It was a great idea for a horror franchise. Imagine that, like, you don't have one central killer in every movie, you have different people using the mask, and the comic books are very much like that. However, when they were scripting it, it didn't quite work, it didn't translate to screenplay, so what they did instead was tool it based on the dark comedic moments. Why not just make it a comedy? And the exec producers were a little skittish about this, especially when the producer and the director suggested relatively unknown leads. Jim Carrey, for example, had only done a selection of films, but he was mostly known for being the token white guy on In Living Colour, and he'd done Rubber Face at that point, and Earth Girls Are Easy, and things like this. Cameron Diaz had never acted, at least not in a professional way. She was a model, but once they saw what she looked like, I think she was auditioning at something else across the way from Screen Test they were doing for Tina Carlisle. They were like, you look like the femme fatale 1940s, 1950s gangster movie kind of profile. We're just curious, would you give it a go? So they tested her, and she did some script readings, and she did some readings with Jim Carrey, and they went, you're actually pretty good. Okay, let's do this. Also, we're going to do a load of big, garish special effects. And also this movie is going to be darkly comedic, but also quite light-hearted in places, and include a great big dance number and a lot of cartoon influences. And the execs in New Line were like, nope! And they gave it a relatively small budget. The budget for The Mask is in around the 20 million mark, which is unheard of for something this influential to cinema. Without this, special effects did not progress. One of the reasons I big damn love it, The Mask broke new visual effects ground. For those who've never seen it, you need to change that. I mean, I'm sure everyone has witnessed The Mask in some way, at least I'd like to think so! But for the uninitiated, shame on you. The Mask is about Stanley Ipkiss, very different from his comic book counterpart. He's a lovely bank clerk, works with his friend Charlie, is a hopeless romantic, doesn't seem to ever maintain a relationship. One day his client, Tina Carlisle, who's looking to open an account, really grabs his attention. She seems dazzling and way out of his league, and he's spellbound by her. He gets an invite to the Coco Bongo Club that night. Coco Bongo, aka the coolest place in all of non-continuity, non-specific time period based comedy movies. It's Edge City's hottest venue. Tina actually sort of works there. She's a singer at the Coco Bongo, but she's also the girlfriend of mobster Dorian Tyrell, who's looking to usurp his boss, and in doing so, had Tina scout the bank to get info so his men can rob it, to give them the supplies necessary to take hold of the mob for themselves. Now, Stanley ends up with a loaner car rental, he embarrasses himself in front of Tina, who's kicked out the Coco Bongo, and on his way home, he encounters what he thinks is a dead body in the river, or at least someone drowning. He goes down to help them, see what he can do. It turns out it's just a load of trash bags and a bunch of gunk and seaweed. However, amongst them is this. He takes this home, not really knowing what to think of it. It's just an odd little artifact. He hangs out, he watches some cartoons, some Tex Avery cartoons, with his dog Milo, because his flat's full of just like Looney Tunes memorabilia. What a loser, surrounding himself with toys. And after musing over a TV spot on a psychologist's new book called The Masks We Wear, he picks up the artifact and he places it on his face. And suddenly it sucks his head in, and he's this wild, crazy Tasmanian devil zoot suit wearing Tex Avery wolf motherfucker.
Spoken! It's party time! P-A-R-T. Why? Because I gotta!
All of Stanley's inhibitions are removed and his innermost desires come to the surface. The guy wants to be cool, he wants to be hit with the ladies, and he wants to get back at everybody who chewed him up and spat him out on his day-to-day life. And he does just that. That first night alone, he terrifies his landlady, who's this battle axe of a cow. He almost gets mugged by this group of uncouth biker people, and he just plays them. He toys with them and terrifies them.
And last but not least, my favorite. A Tommy gun!
And then, just to finish off, he goes to the two mechanics who screwed him over earlier and beats the crap out of them. They get off easier than the mechanics in the book. The balloon animal scene and the mechanics being beaten up scene are both from the book, and they end much more horrifically in the source material. Random tidbit for you, the interior of the Ghostbusters firehouse is the same location used for the mechanics garage where Stanley gets his revenge, which is such an odd thing, because it's such a recognisable location. Now I've said it, you're going to notice it if you hadn't already. The police start to get involved. Lieutenant Kellaway is investigating The Mask, this green-headed dude who showed up out of nowhere. Stanley stands up to his boss. He starts to change internally. He's sort of finding a bit more confidence. At the same time as being terrified, thinking, wait, did I actually do that stuff? I thought it was a dream. That was me. I did these things with this. What is that? So he heads out that night again wearing the mask. He robs a bank, the same one Dorian's men are robbing, completely cocking up their operation. He heads to the Coco Bongo. He watches Tina doing her best Jessica Rabbit impression whilst he's doing his best Tex Avery impersonation. And then he joins in. Thus begins the first scene that I absolutely, on a guttural level, adore this sequence. If I'm feeling glum, and I've only got 15 minutes, not enough time to watch the whole film, I will skip to the Royal Crown Review Hey Pachuco sequence.
Let's rock this joint!
Royal Crown Review provide the music, they are the Coco Bongos band. The Mask just jumps in, gets involved, and Jim Carrey and Cameron Diaz, who'd never done anything like this before, go all out in a massive dance number. It's brilliant. Their enthusiasm is infectious. The dancers that stand in for them aren't too noticeable for the bigger moves. There's obviously some really cartoony stuff that's aided by visual effect. It's just, it's so good.
I love it!
This is the scene that really messes things up for me in my head, because when he's got the mask on, he can warp reality, and he's obviously influenced by the cartoons that he's obsessed with, the Stanley Ipkiss. And yet, when he's doing weird stuff, people don't seem to react to it as though it's weird. It's like him wearing it warps reality in general. Edge City is already a Gotham-esque city out of time, like from Batman and Batman Returns. You can't really place it, but it's definitely got an influence from the 1920s, 30s mob kind of culture. You know, the Italian mobsters, the suave suit, the zoot suits and everything. Interesting fact as well, the zoot suit he's wearing was a choice by Jim Carrey because it was the same as a suit that his mum gave him when he started doing stand-up. But yeah, when he gets attacked by Dorian and his goon, he gets shot. Or he does get shot. They don't really make it clear. And then he delivers this big Oscar-worthy goodbye dying speech. And the thug starts crying. And then an audience comes up and applauds him and he gets an award. And Dorian notices this little audience and is like, just in his hair. Which is hilarious because it's like, hang on. Shouldn't the first thing going through his head be, where the hell have they come from? No, it's like, oh shit, I'm in public. Better look good. I love that it's never really addressed. It almost needs just one character at some point in the movie to go, how do you do those things? But they don't. So you just accept that, yep, this is the reality we're living in. Things spiral out of control from there, with the Mask pursuing Tina after the advice of the psychiatrist from earlier on spurs him to go as Stanley and the Mask. That results in the giant Cuban Pete song and dance number, which is probably the film's most famous sequence.
Yes, sir, I'm Cuban Pete. I'm the crazy mannequin freak. When I start to dance, everything goes jig, jiggy, boom, jig, jiggy, boom.
The scene with Ben Stein as the psychiatrist is phenomenal because Ben Stein's delivery is so dry. But not just that. They begin to talk about where the mask came from. Apparently it's similar to an artifact from Norse mythology, where the powers of Loki...
Who's Loki?
I am a god, you dull creature!
Yeah, not that one, but same character, were imbued to this artifact. All of his mischief, all of his evil was condensed into this thing, and the mortals were not meant to toy with it. It was meant to be contained. The original opening for the movie actually showed Vikings going to a foreign land, washing up on the shore, and burying the artifact in a chest, and having a witch put an incantation over it, and then saying that pity the poor fool who finds this one day. And then obviously hundreds of years later it becomes Edge City. But the idea that basically the powers come from the gods, they don't stick around on it too much. There's no origin things. In fact, if this movie were to ever get into the specifics of Loki and his attachment to the mask, then you'd end up with a pretty terrible film. But no one would ever attempt that, would they? Ah! Ah! Get it off screen! Get it off screen! I'm still waiting for my money back from seeing that piece of shit. That movie assaulted me. Eventually, Dorian gets hold of the mask, Stanley's thrown in prison, and it's up to him, his dog Milo, and Tina to find a way to stop Dorian, save Edge City, and get rid of the mask for good. There's some really nice stuff in this movie. It's not a superhero film per se, but it certainly plays on it. There's a character in the movie called Peggy who's a reporter. She's absolutely adorable, and she's played by Amy Yazbek, the actress who plays Maid Marian from Robin Hood Men in Tights. So the moment she came on screen during my rewatch this week, in my brain I just heard, "A happy little bluebird." She's essentially Lois Lane. She's the good girl. She's not the femme fatale. She's, hard-working journalist. So the way the film's going at the start, playing with the comic book tropes, you think, oh yeah, she's going to be a thing. No, she's a complete backstabber and betrays Stanley later in the movie. Jim Carrey saved the millions of dollars on the effects budget for this movie. They were dabbling in some experimental stuff, but it was helped by the fact that the latex, the prosthetics team, worked hard to make sure that the mask never hampered his facial movements. So when it came to bits with his mouth stretching, his eyes pinging out, and his body moving into the wolf head and things like that, his natural elasticity, aided by the fact that the makeup was not hampering his performance, meant that when the effects guys were blending, the guys at Industrial Light and Magic were blending the CG in, they didn't have to, cover too much where the animation met the live action. They just sort of blended it slightly, because Jim was stretching himself that much. They were like, perfect. It would have saved them hundreds of hours and millions of dollars. What a boon. The casting choice was an excellent decision. The producer was proved right. Dorian's a fun villain. You genuinely want him taken down. He's a proper boo-hiss bad guy. And of course he gets to wear the mask for a bit toward the end, which is a little unremarkable because he doesn't do anything too ambitious with it, but at the same time the sense of threat is definitely there. You're like, oh god, Dorian Tyrell is now in possession of the thing that makes him a superpowered immortal. What's he gonna do? Milo the dog, one of the best dog actors in cinematic history, is really nice and playful with Carey, and then of course gets a scene with the mask on itself, which is brilliant. If you're curious about more Mask and you want to see more of the Mask in your life, I highly recommend checking out The Adventures of the Mask Omnibus, which is a comic book series based on the animated series. Episodes of the animated series circle around here on YouTube. Do give them a watch. Rob Paulson does excellent work, and it's got one of the best cartoon theme songs ever.
Pretty viridian faces like mine don't come a dime a dozen. I stand out in the crowd. Babe, when they made me, yeah, they broke the mold. Wholesome and kind, estate and refined, totally out of my mind.
If you're up for something grisly, I do read the original comics, and I highly recommend, for those of you who don't want to go full-on horror, but want to experience a bit more of a blend between the film version of The Mask and the comic book version of The Mask, to track down the DC miniseries Mask Joker. Well, actually, it's called Joker Mask, but it does what it says on the tin. The Mask ends up in Gotham City, Kellaway's in pursuit, Batman's involved, chaos reigns. There was eventually a sequel to The Mask, but we don't talk about it. Ah! Stop it! No! Ah!
Don't worry, we'll get to that one day. Moo-ha-ha.
Right. Anyway, I big damn love The Mask. Do you big damn love it too? Let me know in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe to Big Damn Cast on iTunes, or just watch the episodes here on YouTube as they go up. Now, if you don't mind, this might get crazy. You probably want to step back.
You said Loki was a night god. Maybe it only works at night.
Oh yeah.